It's rough. It's pedaled to the sanctuary, and then
there's more bikes.
People turned up and started fighting there. And
a lot of people that just abandoned their bikes.
No time to get the bike. I just need to get out of here.
Round one.
Going to be riding the Lucio bicycle. That doesn't really work. He's on rollerblades. But it is going to be double goats here, the Ryan version.
Very expected from both sides. It's what we've seen across the entirety of the match so far. Look at the early positioning. Nova so far starting good in a good spot.
Yeah, this is GrandXur kind of eating some wraparound damage. Papillon in kind of full retreat here, taking some real pain. This will give Nova that positioning on the point itself as it comes to unlock.
Just sitting at 71%. Papillon's only at 14.
Wow, that's really telling, and it's just because Nexus has been able to get up close and personal. Took a few chunks there and is currently sitting with an Orb of Discord on.
Cap went over.
Careful, yeah. It's a really tough break for GrandXur, and it's just good aggressive posturing from Nova. Taking to its logical extension. Early sound barrier out, matched by Restia. Nexus, unfortunately, nothing with the shatter, but now it's going to be double grabs coming out. All ultimates thrown in the mix here. Crazy S with the self-destruct could be the difference maker. No, it's Papillon, but no one got any kills from it. Self-destruct and Silvercoin gets two, and finally the stalemate is broken as GrandXur look to take the cap off Nova.
And it was the support ultimates that come up first as well, so no one goes down. Nexus had the early Earth Shatter, but doesn't connect it well. We had to wait for the self-destruct from Silvercoin, who do finally manage to flip that one over. But you can imagine this should have been very different. Nova should be on 0 right now. GrandXur, because they had to rotate long back the other way around, couldn't contest a point in time as it unlocked for Nova, and now Nova gets to run away with some early progression.
One thing that saves Nova here as well is they do actually come back in with an ultimate. Hamzy, though, sitting near to a grab could be a point of trouble. Nova need to make this a quick win if it's going to be a win. Self-destruct forward. Nicely positioned. Papillon pops up the shield. They're going to be just fine. They even find one. A little bit over-aggressive looking for a bash against the Reinhardt there. And now Nova have to really back up here. Actually, they trade back on Papillon, so never mind that. Transcendence in the nick of time to save the team from the Earth Shatter. The grab there with Transcendence out of Oyo and Hugo. Ooh, just barely going down. He nearly got away with his life. Hamzy's probably too low to commit the grab, unfortunately. Now Heimish as well. Nova are going to flip it back.
That's really disappointing for GrandXur because they had to set up 4 ultimates coming online, 5 if you include Marlin. And for Hamzy, if he had more HP, if there were more members, he can throw out the grab, combo that with the self-destruct from Silvercoin, which he's already successfully done so far, just to get the point back in the first place. GrandXur might have been able to hold on to the cap, but now, coming back in, they still do have advantage. They want to do this quickly, though, because Nexus and Crazy S about to hit their ults.
The thing they've got to give respect to those ultimates. There's the grab.
Here we go.
Self-destruct laid in. Bit of an awkward... Oh, are you
nope,
kidding?
It's not. That's 5!
The bash onto the Nexus right at the ideal moment. It looked like the mech was just going to go too far around the corner, but there was just enough of an insight to get 5 members.
So well calculated there, just on the precipice for GrandXur. Able to flip that one back through. Look at how close the series is at 61, 65%.
Man, we've had some incredible diva plays over the course of the last couple of days, but that's got to be one of the best yet. Now, how will Nova respond? They do have their own grab self-destruct combo about available now. They're already muscling GrandXur off the point, who know that they're at an ult depth. There's the grab, self-destruct laid up, sound barrier is there. Self-destruct, just, I think that might have caught the lip of the roof there, didn't really get anything. Catch off.
Oh, nice counter shatter.
Nice counter shatter is a huge one. Heimish, Papillon, Silvercoin, they all start to drop like flies. Hamzy does come up on a grab. That'll be nice for the next fight, but this one belongs to Nova.
And not only that, but they capped it super early as well. Nova have been collecting percentage points for most of this fight, which again, GrandXur just let it go right out from under their feet. That's really going to hurt them because we are now going into what is to be an overtime scenario for Nova Esports. GrandXur have only got the Graviton Surge, no self-destruct this time from Silvercoin.
But I tell you what, the grab could be enough. No,
nope,
it's not. It got eaten. Never mind. Papillon already picked as well. Super aggressive positioning from Nova, totally paying off. Nexus turned tail to get back to the team, but the team's already won the fight on the point. Hamzy is a late casualty now on that point. Heimish comes in just to keep the contest alive, but it's not going to be for long. That will be Nova looking to pick up the first point of Busan here on Sanctuary.
Oh, even on the charge on Hugo there.
Just
to make sure no one was going to get there in time. But
pass in and then pass back out.
I do want to say, though, for GrandXur, if they had not let the cap go twice, especially the first one, was particularly egregious. That was 31% given away for Nova for free. in that sort of last overtime scenario, let's only focus on that 31%. Nova wouldn't have gone to the overtime, not until the very end stages. GrandXur might have had another fight still in there, another attempt to bring it back. But unfortunately, that's just not the case, just off a very small slip-up because they did not contest in time. And now Nova are 1 stage up, 1-0 up in Busan. We're back into the GOATs, but at least this time Nova want to change things up. It's going to be Nexus on the Winston.
And this is interesting. Nova already won the mirror matchup. Now they're looking to win the asymmetric matchup. They need to leverage the earlier advantage the Winston gives them.
And they can play on the high ground early as well. Both teams are going to do that, at least until the point opens. Look at the early damage, though.
Yeah, same kind of deal. Nova just more aggressive in the positioning and muscling GrandXur out. Heimish down, Papillon gets popped. This is the opening that Nova really needed. Much more convincing than the one on Sanctuary where they had the positioning but not necessarily the kills. This is huge for Nova.
And this time around they do manage to collect this point up and control it. They do get it in the more natural sort of way. If you look at Nexus's ult charge, not only just now but at the start as well, that first jump in, he got 30%. Everyone in GrandXur was still sitting at 10. Long wraparound though, they want to get straight onto the point.
It's a nice maneuver, but now that they're a little bit caught in the rotation, it gets a little dicey. Up on this high ground, though, it's making it a bit difficult for Nova to commit, but they've got tools coming up soon. Now onto the low ground. Nexus looks to go aggressive. He just wants to scatter them to the 4 wins here, and it succeeds. This is a 4v6 and a 2v6 just in 2 different areas. Malin, first casualty of the fight. Rally's coming in now. That's all Nova have got for now.
There's not a lot of cleanup here now. Waiting for the Graviton Surges. Support ultimates nearly online as well. Nova's still ticking up.
OWC with that Transcendence, and the Sound Barrier soon available on Restia as well. Nice catch on Heimish. Sound Barrier still not committed from Restia, doesn't need to. It's just a Transcendence for now, and Blue commits a grab. They want to make sure that this is a closed out fight now, and this has been a long loss for GrandXur.
And this is where you see the difference here. Hamzy doesn't quite have Graviton Surge. Malin doesn't quite have the Sound Barrier either. They could have been able to match Nova. This would have been a much longer engagement. They do also have their own Sound Barrier, but they don't have to expend that. They know there's no threat. Nova get to walk away with just the Graviton expended towards the end there to complete that fight, and 65% to 0. Very different to what we saw on a Sanctuary.
That being said, now GrandXur come into their ultimates. This is where they have an opportunity, but a little bit of a tricky rotation here. Silver
already a D-mech.
Forced to self-destruct. Might not even get back in the mech at this rate. Got nothing for that as well. Heimish already popped out. And GrandXur only getting Blue with that, immediately rescued by a Sound Barrier, and Nexus gets aggressive as well. That's a good disrupt onto Hamzy on the side, who tosses the grab out on solo Restia with no one to really follow it up. Finally, Papillon gets in there, but that just leaves the rest of his team exposed. Nova still very much in control of the situation. OWC might go down here. That's a bit of a boon for GrandXur, but without Papillon, he's getting a bit low. They're actually staying in this. GrandXur do still have a hope here now, but
they should have this.
Yeah, they've actually managed to turn this one nicely around. Right when it was at its most dire.
And both teams were really running out of resources there. Blue still had the grab, but the rest of the team was down. He goes down as well. 99 to 0. This has to be a full comeback now. GrandXur up against the wall. They have to play perfectly. They have to win 4 to 5 fights in a row. And for Nova, just one fight will get them the win here. They are at basically match point for Busan.
And with the ultimates to back it up as well. They've got the grab self-destruct combo.
Straight on the point.
Yeah, wow, no hesitation. GrandXur had the match caught in the rotation downwards. Now the self-destruct layered on top. Little bit of an awkward position. Silvercoin throws out his self-destruct. It just kind of feels like he was doing it for the sake of it. Not really going to get much out of that kind of thing. And Papillon goes down while they focus him. Just kind of pick the one tank and go. And now it's Silvercoin who's the casualty of that focus. There's still no counter kills coming through. Nice stun onto Nexus, but it's only a moment's reprieve for Heimish. Still going to go down anyway.
It's counter cap.
Nova back in control already. GrandXur not getting any counter trades of their own in this situation. Silvercoin again popped out of the mech. Papillon again killed for the second time in this fight. And it says how long that fight has been, but ultimately it will fall the way of Nova, and they will secure Busan.
And this is going to be another small detail that in the end probably isn't going to be the difference maker, but it's just something to note for a team like GrandXur. But they just let the point slip. Yet again, somehow it flipped back to Nova. They were already at 99%, so instantly hit the overtime. But it's the fact that it's allowed to happen. I mean, if this happened at any other stage, if it was in the middle of the game, this would just be Nova ticking up 3 percentage points. The fact that this does happen is very concerning for GrandXur. It's been about 3 times in a row that we have seen them give away this cap while the fight is still going. And now it's 2-0 on Busan for Nova. not super one-sided, very, very conflicting, especially on Sanctuary, which did go to overtime on both sides, but especially looking at Mecha Base, that was a lot more convincing for Nova.
And they also move forward now. I mean, when things are close, but it's still a 2-0, that also does kind of say something in and of itself, right? Like a really close control goes to all three, and they're all 99-99. That's when you really say that was anyone's game. This team just happens to be the one that won it. No, in this situation, Nova did play a better game on Sanctuary, and then only got better from that point on. If that trend does continue forward into the series, it really puts the pressure onto GrandXur to answer and respond. And that is already the situation they're in now. As we move off control to the more asymmetric maps, it is on them to answer. It is on them to show, okay, that's the only game mode you can beat us on.
And the good news, I guess, for GrandXur is very few times in the season so far we've had a team get that first map win and then go on to complete the series in either a 3-1 or a 4-0 kind of fashion. That's been more rare. We've had a lot more often as teams coming back. The first win doesn't always really tell the full story. We've also had teams take the first map and then lose the next 3 in a row and just sort of not really reverse sweep, but give the other team 3 maps to 1 in a 3-1 scoreline, but just, you know, in the opposite kind of order.
It kind of is a reverse sweep in a way. It's just it doesn't quite go the full 5.
It's a sweep. It's a 3 map in a row sweep. So the good news is they don't have to worry too much about that. I think it was close enough that going into maps 2, 3, and 4, GrandXur, you wouldn't count them out. It's not a massive blowout. Neither, when you look at Busan overall, both the stages, despite it being a 2-0, you don't feel like, okay, well, this is just Nova completely manhandling GrandXur here. No chance for GrandXur. This is Nova's day. It's not like Talon playing Lynx from the other week, which was definitely very one-sided. This match, you feel like GrandXur, bit of a slip up here, gave away the point at very unfortunate times. The only few times they did manage to have really decent control was a bunch of self-destruct kills off a silver coin. Every other point was a little bit more difficult for them. I'll be very interested to see how they go on for the next couple of maps.
Next map, speaking of, will be Numbani. That is going to be the pick here for GrandXur. An interesting thing to note about Nova as well is they've often had situations where they've looked good and not quite got a map win. So this does have a bit of catharsis, I would say, for them to have that good performance and still get their map win. But even when they've had those close but no map win moments, they've then also gone on to have other stages that have looked a little bit worse compared to the ones where they've maybe come close to a win, and that's part of why they have picked up a couple of losses throughout this. So what I do think we could still very much see is actually that Control is the outlier here for Nova. They're just a little bit better on it. And if GrandXur are just a little bit better on Hybrid as well, then this is still just very surmountable for them.
Honestly, especially for GrandXur, because based on memory here, when we did see them on the other maps, they look very good, especially they do have the option to swap Charm in as well. When that time arises, they have some good DPS options. Hamzy, if you'll remember, had a very good game on Widowmaker the other week as well. So in terms of relying on DPSs and really flexing on other picks, I do have a lot of confidence in GrandXur.
And it is Numbani, one of the maps we see a lot of those DPS picks. Both teams have some options at their disposal. Let's see how they choose to play it out and who gets the better of the other.
I tell you what, this map doesn't have an inflatable cow, but it does have a golden rhinoceros, the big one at back.
It's pretty impressive.
Especially if it's made out of real gold. That's a lot of gold.
Beyond. What if it's because
that's some Wakanda levels of rich to get that?
What if it's because at this point in the future the rhinoceros has gone extinct? It's already endangered. They remember it through a gold statue.
I feel like Marvel would probably be a little bit more appropriate, but either way, it's going to be GrandXur not playing the DPSs, but they are going to stick to something safe though. It is Winston Ghost 3-3 Nova. Reading that is potentially a Ghost defense is going to start 1 on the Pharah instead.
Yeah, and I do like the pharmacy here. It does tend to work out quite nicely. And with one thing is GrandXur have the Winstons. They've got just that little bit more ability to contest one, but for now just kind of forced backward. Nova going to be able to cap a third here. Now GrandXur starting to readdress the point itself.
Damage.
But not before nearly the second third goes over. One's already got Marlon in that rotation as he's kind of left out in the cold. And Nova, they're going to absolutely storm this one. The barrage out, 2 for that one, 3 for that one, and add the frags in. That's a 4K for 1 and a point cap for Nova.
And GrandXur had absolutely nothing. They weren't even close to ultimates. One was just farming them up. Reminds me of Patty Pan from the last series, and that's going to be a very quick cap through 5 minutes 35 remaining to get through both second and the third point. There is a bit of a pause coming through. Someone on the GrandXur side dropped off. I wasn't quite sure. I didn't catch who disconnected, but I mean, that just kind of makes things a little bit more difficult. That's a fresh hero now, 0% ults.
Yeah, and with the long walk back as well, with the way that respawn works out, a little bit of a tough break, but these things do happen.
It was the same distance. They were going to spawn back there anyway, I think so. That part is not going to be a big deal, but losing ultimates when you were already behind it's painful.
I just can't get over that gold rhino. It's just so massive. I'm sorry.
So gold.
It's like that picture of the cow that was going around a couple of weeks ago.
You need some much considerably smaller rhinos surrounding it, like a retinue,
like a boss rhino,
like a boss, and then just a retinue of like bodyguards or something like that.
I mean, that's basically a Spider-Man villain. Like that's what that is at that point.
There is a villain that is.
It's called Rhino, exactly.
Oh, he's called Rhino.
A lot of animal
there's no
Spider-Man villains when you think about it.
I'm glad there's no
it's Vulture as well.
What is someone looking for? False advertising there. I mean, he's a rhino and he's called Rhino.
He's not like an actual rhinoceros. I think he's got like a rhino kind of.
It's like if Spider-Man was just called Spider, not the
Vulture.
Not the man part.
Pretty much.
It's just Spider.
A bird though in the comics. Like in the movie, he was like a dude with a flying suit thing. Yeah. But in the books, he's a guy. Like, what is it with Spider-Man and like animal villains? Because there's the crocodile dude. There's like Dr. Octopus. Oh, I mean, like what's up with all of these? Do they just go through like a zoo? Like, how can we make a lemur a villain?
Yeah, I like that goblin animal.
Yeah,
what an animal. It was Hamish that actually disconnected there. Hamzy changes anyway, so Super McCree coming on through. You like to maybe consider here that, actually Hamish was already playing the Brigadier, so that doesn't really matter as much. It's got to be a very slow defense here, very early cart push. Nova Esports already getting so much distance.
And actually Nova made a change of their own as well. You actually see one coming in for a very late change here because they know that they're looking to address that point C before too long anyway. They want to be playing the
goats. Nexus.
Yeah, nice dive in, but Nexus too deep, too quick, and stunned up, drop down. Nova not really getting any counter trades, losing blue as well on the retreat. That's a little bit less than ideal, but good rally from GrandXur there.
And you could tell that was going to go badly for Nexus, first of all, because he doesn't have the primal if things go poorly. But most importantly, he went in, and the rest of the team was so far behind, he barely got a bubble from one. And you're going up against a flashbang and a shield bash. You eat both stuns, you're pretty much guaranteed dead. And that's basically what happened.
Now, Nova trying to find their way back into this one. GrandXur have got a good score of ultimates here at their disposal. Nearly 5 with that Deadeye, but Papillon's already down, not saved by the Transcendence, nor the pop of Primal Rage. Now the Deadeye come out.
Still finds one.
Yeah, that's enough. Well, finds blue, but I get what you mean. Nova, though, they've got their ultimates at their disposal now as well. Double sound barriers committed. Nova, the charge coming up on one. He's nearly onto a Graviton Surge. Self-destruct board also finds Hugo. And actually, Hamzy's just turned to the hills. He's just hiding out from this one. Maybe going to try and get 1 or 2 more frags, but even this kind of late recommit by GrandXur feels a little bit off-killed, so they find rest here. This is a big brawl on the payload, and it feels like as time goes by, Nova will just grind GrandXur down with those GOATS rotations. Losing Marlon, though, I might have to... this is tough.
It really depends, because GrandXur still do have close enough respawns. Deadeye still available now, because Hamzy survives. And the Primal Rage from Papillon, if they're able to make Soul out for a little bit longer, maybe they contest, and then the Deadeye picks up a couple, but just couldn't find the damage towards the end there. The cap does go through. Nexus and Papillon at the same time, coordinated, both go on to Ryan. They both know Ryan is the way to go here, and one, already having been swapped onto the Zarya previously, is on his way towards a Graviton.
The only thing that GrandXur have to work with here is the fact that Hugo nearly has a Transcendence. That's all they've got. They will at least get it before any majorly threatening ultimates come out of Nova, and with an early catch on blue as well, they've got a bit of time to charge up these tank ults too.
It's not going to be cleanup though, it's just one member, and you'd expect for GrandXur, if they manage to get a few more, really route Nova, really force some long respawns, then they get to charge up a bunch of ultimates. Because they don't get to do that, the Earthshatter is going to be late here, the Graviton Surge is going to be late here, and they have to rely on both support ultimates, one that Oyo can match.
This could be big for Nova, looking to get aggressive now. They want an angle on the shatter if they can. The double Transcendence, those are both very early. there might be a bit of a bait out here because now this grab, there's nothing that can really defend against it. Look at the damage! The self-destruct land on top as well, just to finish off the few that weren't already bleeding from the mouth. And now Nova looking to storm their way to the end.
And because the cart was already fairly pushed up, Nova now can just get towards the finish line. GrandXur will have a string of respawns here, but they need to get these ults in. Papillon's still just a little bit off. Nexus, though, he's ready.
And if he can get a good Earth Shatter here, nice preemptive stun onto Blue, but there's the stun back onto Papillon. Self-destruct up from Silvercoin, doesn't find anything, and Nexus's Earth Shatter went a bit wide. Blue goes down. Now Nova, they have to back up, but they've got plenty of time.
They need to get a clean up here. Nexus should go down, but they need a few more. That's still only 2 kills. You note that when GrandXur lose these fights, Nova cleans them up. When GrandXur are winning these fights, they only get 1 or 2 kills, especially on the C defense so far, which means they're just not getting a huge string of ultimates. Once again, Nova on their push. Ressi and Oyo will have some supports ult to play with. One could probably get this Graviton Surge. GrandXur just do not have the lead that they want.
It's a real tricky kind of situation. That's the Earth Shatter to come out. He gets a couple, but they can't really follow up on it. The sound barrier just makes that much more difficult. Now this is 1 versus Hamzy. That's really what this comes down to. Oh dear.
No, that doesn't happen.
That's not great. Now it's One's turn. Will he get the connection? No! Both got eaten. That's ridiculous. And now it's just both teams kind of brawling out on the payload. Nexus coming up on a Shatter. It's got to be the linchpin of this fight at this point. And it's gone on for a good minute.
Does use it.
They get Heimish as well. Papillon's dead. They've got the opening at long mighty last. Hamzy nearly came up on another grab there, but not quite in time. They tried to get Nexus to drop the shields so that self-destruct could make its mark, but no such luck. And now Nova cap it out on Numbani.
Just a couple of misfires here. Both teams missed the Graviton Surge. You can wipe the slate clean on that one. But because Nexus finds the Earth Shatter and Papillon's just a little bit too far behind, then dies before he can get it. That's the unfortunate thing for GrandXur, and this is just a bit of the result of the cause of the problem initially, which is the fact that because they don't get cleanups, they never get to really charge ultimates, so they're never in a position where they get these big string of ultimates, they have the lead they're looking for. You'd expect that a team, after winning 2 fights, even if they're 2 fights that are spread out and not necessarily in a row, you should have some decent advantages, because after Nova were winning fights, they certainly did. And you can see what happens when they get to cash those in on the final contest as well. They get early ultimates, the ultimates that GrandXur do not have access to.
Now, all Nova really need to do is run down the clock a bit. I mean, that 1 minute, well, it's not a lot of time. But it's a good amount if you do end up in a time bank situation. GrandXur have to get a really competitive time coming into the time bank if they want to have a good shot at this, so Nova can just play for the clock.
And because Nova got more than 1 minute, they've avoided a time bank scenario where they're playing for a draw. Now, if they do play for a draw, it's the opposite side around, where it's GrandXur defending and Nova attempting to get the win, but they can't really lose anymore. GrandXur have to try and match this kind of time if possible. Nova going to play the soldier defense, something we haven't seen since week 1. Kind of fell out of flavor. Teams started to not see the value out of it, and it's going to be paired up by the pharmacy combo as well. So potentially thinking it might be a GOAT's opening. Now, this is a very interesting opening, I would say, by GrandXur as well. Papillon's just trying to find some free damage or something.
I feel like they're maybe checking for a Sombra.
See you later.
Not sure, or it could just be a weird kind of scouting. This is definitely a scouting Sombra out of Hamzy at least. They're going to make the change here. I do like the Super McCree here.
Do need some setup though. They're going to take a lot of spam damage as they rotate through, so that's the only difficulty. Watch One's ult charge here, because you'll remember on Nova's attack, One got a rocket barrage super quick.
One thing that Nova do have at their disposal as well, potentially, is a Nano Visor combo. Not something we've seen for a very long while. Good stun on Nexus. Didn't quite get the follow-up. Nearly, but not quite. And that gives Ressi a bit more ult charge.
Does allow now GrandXur to finally set up on the high ground. It's going to be McCree versus Soldier from long range. Blue, though, is doing a ton of damage.
Yeah, Discord Orb on him, though. He's actually forced off this high ground and also off that healing pad. Has to pull the Mercy down from the Barra. It's nearly a third actually over for GrandXur and still no kills either side.
Nearly nano from Restia as well. Got to watch for that ultimate.
It's going to have to be big, and they've nearly got a nano visor. Crazy yes, they're going to lose this mech. Ooh, not quite. So close. One, though, he's going to get popped out as the pressure just starts to mount too much. It's going to be the nano onto the Winston, and the visor comes out after, but it's not the combo they wanted. They found Hamzy, but even then, GrandXur still have got the positioning on the point. Even one's not actually able to get enough damage in here. And look at this, GrandXur are going to cap out with nearly all 6 ultimates available.
And the difference here is one has to play up against a McCree, so he's pressured out. And in terms of losing positioning, the nano had to go into Nexus because you need the tank to dive back in, survive 2 stuns, and still be able to contest the point. You, in that scenario, cannot use the nano on the soldier anymore. He has to visor anyway, gets no damage because Silver Coin's in his face. And like you said, pushing into B, 4 minutes 35, 6 ultimate, all the lights are up, and Nova have nothing to defend.
Good heavens, but you look at the time, it's beginning to look a lot like Christmas with all those ultimates. Nothing got gained for any of them, though. Now GrandXur do at least find Crazy S's mech. Good stun onto Nexus, able to finish him off. So they will still force Nova back, but...
That's a headshot.
Oh, wow. Actually, this is now really good. Hamzy being able to charge up some more ultimate here means Nova don't actually get the kind of recovery fight they need here.
That's 4 ultimates used by GrandXur, but that was probably always going to be an expected win for Nova. Their goal is to absorb as many ultimates as possible, force as much resource expenditure from GrandXur as possible. You got to say 4 out of 6 is pretty effective, but it does now allow them to say we can make swaps for free. We're still close to the respawn location, and we do want to start setting up for an eventual C push.
Nova, Nova, Nova. Ain't over till it's over. What will you pull out of the bag next? They've not got a lot to go on here. Early Transcendence out of Hugo, but they don't necessarily need it to deal with any ultimates from Nova. So, need to get some kills while that one's running. That window's kind of closed now, and soon it'll be blue with a grab.
That's the thing, and Nexus are catching up as well. There is a sound barrier in response, so Marlon has to be careful not to have that forced out.
Nice stun onto Papillon. It ends up forcing out a sound barrier, but with that, they get aggressive. Find Nexus. Grav.
It's a bit average.
Yeah, not really getting many people, and also way too late. Where's the combo to come in? Crazy has only got 1. They've already lost 2 huge damage dealers coming into that. The moment you don't have the Reinhardt, it's so much harder to kill people in the Grav.
Another expectation for GrandXur has increased. They have 4 minutes 30 to start with going into C. They need to beat 159 here, so they have about 230 in terms of advantage to do that with, and ultimates coming online soon. Hamzy and Papillon about to rotate into them. Ressi and Oreo are going to have to pull out some big guns to try and defend. They have both support ults.
That's the thing, if they hadn't committed that grab, they'd be in a much better position here. Instead, they're a little bit behind. The 8-ball self-destruct board is in a huge spot. Finds blue, the rest drop down, and at least Nova conserve those defensive ultimates and absorb the 2 out of GrandXur, but they're now going to be defending backs against the wall.
That's not a very good place to be if you are Nova. They do get them, but they do lose the fight, which means they do also charge some ultimates on the GrandXur side, allow Papillon to get himself an Earth Shatter, and now you have to play the coin flip. Which Ryan is going to get a better Shatter?
Love me some Reinhardt chicken. There is, of course, the bash just to make things interesting. GrandXur actually choosing to back off a little bit here. Waiting for the right time to strike and respecting that those ultimates are there for Nova.
And by the way, if Ressia and Oyo get caught in the Earth Shatter, they're not going to get a chance to use those defensive ultimates, so there's a chance here that it doesn't do a lot. GrandXur are definitely waiting a bit long here. They're losing time while this is happening.
They need to... Oh, there we go. They didn't get either Ressia or Oyo, so Oyo pops the Transcendence, now matched on the other side by Hugo. Rally out as well for one.
Nexus.
3-1. Nexus gets stunned, but no follow-up, and now he shatters.
Nope.
No, doesn't get anything either. Now it's just nothing for nothing. Blue coming up on a grab will have to be the coin flip of this fight, or rather, the flip point of this fight gets eaten, and this is all starting to go pear-shaped. Hamzy's got one available, but they did lose Papillon, so I think Hamzy actually wants to back off, knowing that they can maybe come into the next fight with an ult advantage. But this is where Nova can press this one, getting Silver Coin as well if they can. Ooh, not quite, but still, ultimate's charged up.
And the disappointing thing here is because Hamzy goes down, you'll notice he was 90 plus on the energy charge there. Losing that is definitely going to affect how they push into this next fight. But otherwise, they got both support ultimates. Ressi and Oyo both had to use ults there, which means, in terms of this grab, as long as they can connect it well, Silver Coin's coming up online for a self-destruct, they can do a lot of damage. There's no defense left for Nova, and the cart is in position to finish.
This is a bit of an awkward spot, really, for both of these teams, but GrandXur with the ultimate advantage. They're in a decent spot here.
That's bad.
That's really bad. Not the start they want, but they've still got other tools they can leverage here. Shadow coming up soon for Papillon. Crazy S low. They throw the self-destruct forward, and actually Crazy S goes out as well, but he dies before he gets back in the mech, and Blue found out by Silver Coin. Now Nova sorely on the back foot. They lose Nexus 2.
Oh, yeah,
it's Valiant, but it's not going to do much. Oyo comes in to the rescue, though. They're waiting for respawns. Crazy S will come back out. Blue going to be close to a grab, but this cart, it is dominated by GrandXur members right now as they rally on top of it. They lose Restia on the side of Nova. Crazy S down as well. And Blue still not able to get this grab up just yet. They're still at a massive numbers disadvantage. Still not quite there on the ultimate.
Nexus!
He's so close. He needs to get it available. Blue's getting drilled down. Nexus goes down just as the ultimate comes available. Blue as well, just shy of a grab. Hamzy gets only Restia in that, but you will take it. And we go to time bank.
And GrandXur rescue that fight, and it all started so poorly. Hamzy telegraphs his play there, just broadcasting what his intentions were so clearly, pushing so far ahead by himself, gets himself discorded, way ahead of the rest of his team. You know he's going to grab you and solve the defensive matrix. All too happy to eat that one up, but then when both divas self-destruct opposite ways to each other, guess what? One of those self-destructs is heading right towards the spawn of Nova. Nova can't get out of the way of that one. They have to eat it, which means they lose members. GrandXur find the player advantage they're looking for, and eventually Nova, even if Blue gets that Graviton Surge up, he doesn't have enough members. Maybe he throws it out there. He's only got 2-3 members with him to try and do damage. It's not going to be enough. Maybe Nexus could have followed that up with an Earth Shatter. That would have been a way to defend, but that's not how the cookie crumbles for that defense. And GrandXur are going to force us into an overtime. It's not quite as good as Nova, but it is good enough.
Great. Now I just want a cookie. Jeez.
And I'll crumble it for you too.
What are you got to do?
Like
it. God, that'd be worse.
And then you can drink the cookie.
So what? No. What do you do with your cookies? This is not right.
No, not with mine. With your cookie.
Nova on the defense, though. They're going to be trying to crumble GrandXur's cookie here. I don't know.
It's going to be a very important offense. Something they don't want to have no progress. That's an obvious thing to say, but the result of that is if they don't get any progress, then they're going to be in a draw scenario, and that's not where you want to be for GrandXur. Nova going to maybe attempt the very aggressive push here. If this goes wrong, GrandXur just rotate on the point, and Nova are too slow. Speaking of too slow, what are GrandXur doing? They're too slow. Do they know they only have a minute? I hope so.
What are they?
It's reverse psychology here.
Really
Nova Esports is super confused by this. But going on to the Varric here for Heimish does mean they can play a little bit better against Nexus.
30 seconds left, and now Nova pulled the trigger. Should go back up at GrandXur.
Tap.
They're on the point, but honestly, Nova can just rotate back.
Oh, Restia.
You know, he's not going to be able to do that. Oh, just barely slipped out by the skin of his pearly whites. Now, GrandXur, they do have a reasonable position, but Nova themselves have been able to recover. 15 seconds remain.
GrandXur need to find a pick here. They've already wasted too much time. They don't get the reset at all. If they lose this push, it's all over.
He's alive for now. Silver Coin's in trouble, so is Papillon. They've got the tanks. Pressured out, forced backwards. 4 seconds, 3 seconds. Someone's got to touch this.
Heimish.
Papillon. Heimish goes down, though, in that rotation.
No.
Papillon's already dead on the front line. Silver Coin up on this high ground. He needs to be contesting the point, but he's all alone in so doing. And it all falls apart for GrandXur. Now with just under 2 minutes, Nova will only need to get a third to push it to match point.
That could have been so different. You do respect, okay, you want to play the most optimal composition, but they took too long to figure out what that was going to be.
They had time for 2 pushes if they hadn't done that.
Yeah, maybe even a little bit more, but it's also because they were trying to scout. Now, here's the interesting thing. Because Nova were hiding in what is potentially a cheese position to try and get an early contest, they couldn't scout that out, so they're wondering, like, what are Nova playing here? We don't know what they're playing, so we're trying to find that out. By the time
if they'd had a
realize
hunter, they could have spotted it.
Yeah, but you have to know where to shoot the Sonic Area, and that's another thing you have to consider. So not really the most ideal scenario for them to be in. The most important thing after that is failing to get the kill into Restia doesn't give them the 6v5. Heimish was on about 60-ish% ult charge. He probably gets the Rocket Barrage reasonably soon after that. Then they can just win the fight and swing things quite hard. But a lot of things going wrong for GrandXur. Didn't have enough time to play with. The best they can do now is a draw, which is not the end of the world, but it's certainly not the ideal result for them.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. Now Nova Only needing to get that 1/3, and you can bet they're not going to dilly-dally the way that GrandXur did.
Because they're already on the fire.
Exactly. They've got plenty of time to play with. Well, I say plenty of time. It's only 2 minutes, but it's enough time for 2 good pushes and 1 rushed one. And that could just be all it needs.
5, 4,
They have in 2 minutes, you can definitely get a decent number of attempts in there, as well as the opportunity to change a composition early if you have to. That's what you get with a decent time back, or at least a decent enough time back. The early scouting here is going to be quite important, especially for one.
They do find Silvercoin as well. He's going to
Straight on the point.
This is what they need to do. They just play the point, they pressure it, they force GrandXur down, and that's when one starts picking members off. That's the game plan, but not quite so smooth sailing this time around. Never mind that. They lost blue, but they trade back, and they trade back hard. Now one largely uncontested, just playing on the last few shots onto Marlon, who was just trying to skate away to safety, and one still uncontested. Oyo in the pocket. They do lose Nexus, they do lose Crazy SS Mech, but they don't actually lose the pilot form. GrandXur have the closer respawn though, so now they do lose the pilot form. Down there, it's still just going to be enough by the looks of it. Last few members here on the point. The rocket barrage is there to close it out. Hymish just goes straight into it. One, they got the cap in the initial phase off a rocket barrage. They get the cap on the overtime off a rocket barrage.
I think with GrandXur there, if they did take down one who was playing the fire, that would have been perhaps a different idea or a different scenario for them to play in, because despite that, they had reasonably even trades. They were making a couple of kills on the other end as well. So the most important kill is getting the fire down without the rocket barrage in play, without the extra damage. With then the respawn advantage, they can continue to defend. But things just not going correct on either the offense or defense of that time bank. And Nova are going to clean that one up 2-0 as we head into the sort of halfway mark. But I do want to say still, my reservation is that it was close enough that you think that GrandXur could still turn things around.
Certainly think so, but Nova are in a decent spot here now. It's match points, and that's really saying something.
It certainly is, but we are going to take a bit of a break now. When we do return, it's going to be the conclusion of the final match of the evening here between Nova and GrandXur, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back right after this.